Join me in Luke chapter 16. This is the parable of the shrewd manager. And so we're going to get started in verse 1. There was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. So this manager was handling, his, finances, like collecting debts and, collecting, just pretty much in this time collecting his taxes. Well, let's skip down because we know that the manager he didn't handle the taxes very well, and in fact we find out that he was going to get fired from this. And so skipping down, he thinks to himself, how can I make my master proud? And so he thinks of this way to, kind of reduce the amount that was owed. And you think it doesn't make sense. This doesn't really make any sense. But you have to notice something. So skipping down in 6, the man replied, I owe him 800 gallons of olive oil. So the manager said, basically cut that in half. He's pretty much saying in 6, cut that to 400 gallons. And so, and then the 1,000 bushels of wheat goes down to 800 bushels. So you think to yourself, why? Like, that seems really generous. And then we know that he gets his job back. And we go, well, why? How's come? Well, guess what? Something that you may not have known, and I think I may have heard this before, but it's the first time this Sunday service, the pastor was talking about this very passage. And he said something eye-opening. That the man that was rich is the owner, right? He's the owner. He's the one collecting not collecting the taxes. That's the manager. But the manager is collecting these taxes for him. And so what is this owner doing? Well, he is charging interest. So the 400 gallons of olive oil, he put and I don't know how, he probably put like a 50% interest on that. Because you take 800 and you slash it in half to 400. See, the original payment probably was 400 plus a 50% tax. And so you see that what the manager did was very wise, and at the end, that's the reason why he gets his job back. And so, and we can go, deeper. But you think to yourself, well, that's very, very odd. How a person that's collecting the taxes, why would they be able to cut what they're collecting from these men in half or by a quarter? Well, that's the reason. It's because the manager's his owner was charging a certain percent, and so he was adding a certain percent on to that, and adding interest. And so that really caught my eye when the pastor this morning, my pastor, talked about that, and how it's kind of interesting how here in America we charge interest. Now, before I go any further, another thing that we have to keep in mind is the Israelites back in those times, they weren't allowed to charge interest. And so the owner of this manager, he didn't want to have to go to court and explain that he was charging interest is another thing. So we know from this parable that God does not charge us, well, he doesn't really charge us anything. But other than that, like, he doesn't charge interest either, obviously. And so many banks in America, so many people in America charge interest. It's called taking advantage of the system. And where I am going with that is a lesson within a lesson. See, I already gave one lesson, but here's another lesson within a lesson. See, the people of this world, the reason why they get rich is because they know how to take advantage of a system. Banks and other people, when they loan, they charge interest, and it just, so when you pay back what the bank loaned, you're actually paying more. It's a profit scheme. It's a way to profit. And so this world has learned how to use the system to gain money. And what this parable is saying is, like, they figured it out. Why haven't my people, talking about Jesus, saying, why haven't my people took advantage of my system to, get ahead? And so that's the lesson within the lesson there.